Who's the hardest hitter to strike out?
Um, that rookie year was definitely Mookie. I mean, he was an MVP that year, and he was to start. To start, I faced him 3 times that year, and he was 5 for 5 off me with 3 triples, and I think he had 3 triples all season. So all 3 of them were against me. But little did I know that I was tipping my changeup, and they knew it.
Ah,
And I remember my third time going there. I remember Kendrys Morales called me into the office after my second start against them because I was like, man, I was throwing good changeups. They're spitting on them and hitting them. And he's like, hey, you're tipping your changeup every time when you go over your head in the windup. And I'm like, oh my God. And it was like the littlest thing. It was like the littlest thing. And I was like, wow, this is the big leagues, huh? Like, this is how good they are at picking stuff up. And I remember I went into Fenway again and I made the change. And first at bat, I punched Mookie out. And I just was like,
nice.
like screaming, screaming. And then I ended up going 7. I think I went 7 shutty or like, and I don't think, with making that change. And I remember after that, I was like, okay, wow, like I got to tighten it up a little bit. Like that's
Yeah.
how much really that really means is, with tips and stuff. So yeah, I would definitely say Mookie was definitely my hardest because I mean he was the MVP that year. The whole AL East in general, man, is such a beast. As you can see this year, it's like every team, man, in that league is unbelievable, and everybody's over
Yeah.
500, and that league is one, man. There's no league. If anybody argues that there's a league better than that year in and year out, I will argue with them to the everything. Smaller ballparks, better teams, bigger payrolls. Like it's a hard league to pitch in, man. So
Yeah.
for those 5 years that I was there, oof, to say I was a little relieved to get out of that league, I was definitely relieved to get out of that league for sure.
Yeah. So then you went to the Seattle Mariners, but before we even get into that, I almost forgot this part. Back when you were in the minor leagues, when people get injured, they go down to the minor leagues to have a little rehab stint. There was a funny story that Matt B told me about when Josh Donaldson and Troy Tulowitzki went down for rehab at the same time. So your whole left side of the infield was with pros, but there was a funny story. I'll cue it up, put on a T for you there if you want to go ahead and finish the story.
Yeah, I was in Dunedin, and yeah, they were rehabbing at the same time. I think it was in 17. They both were rehabbing, and I was like, man, this is the coolest thing ever. I got Josh Donaldson and Troy Tulowitzki on the right side of the infield for me. Like, this is unbelievable. And I remember there was like a bunt situation. And JD, like, he was a great guy, like, but he's a fire. Like when he gets out on the field, man, he just thinks a different way, and just the stuff that he says is hilarious because he's very passionate in what he does. And I remember there's a bunt situation. He came up, he like grabbed the rosin bag. He's like, hey, if there's a bunt play and you can get it, come to me. But if I can get the fuck out of my way. And I was like, yes, sir. Like, yeah, I'll do whatever you want. And yeah, it was just at that point I was just like, oh my God, like I
Yeah.
was like, I got to play with this guy if I make it to the big leagues. Like, I don't even want to like look at him the wrong way. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but he was like, playing with him when I got to the big leagues. Playing with him, he's a great guy, great teammate. He
Yeah.
just wants the thing about him. It's like anybody, he just wants to win. So
Yeah.
you respect him in that sense. It's like he might be fiery and a little scary at times and intimidating, but it's like for all the right reasons. All he wants to
Yeah.
do is just win. So
Hmm.
yeah, you definitely are a little nervous around him sometimes, but yeah, it's in the best way possible.
Awesome. So we'll talk about a tough time for almost everybody in the world was when COVID hit and the way that it affected not only people in their working world and how they live and go about their daily lives, but it affected sports and especially for you when you're playing with Toronto. You guys had to stay in the Rogers Center, and there's a hotel that's attached to it, and you guys had to stay there and live there for about three weeks during the season in practice, and you know you were able to play a lot of video games with Matt B and your teammates during that time.
Yeah.
And Matt, first tell us about the video games and those kind of stories that you had and the bonding you did with Ryan over COVID.
I mean, we were all stuck at home, right? And there was nothing to do. Like but by the time you got into the summer, you were like itching for new stuff to do. Like, you watched all the movies, you watched all the shows, you played all the board games, and him being locked up in that hotel when those guys had nothing to do but play baseball and play video games. Like, they couldn't have family or spouses around. There was literally, they were. That's what we did. So each night, man, we got on the sticks on Xbox, and we were playing a lot of Call of Duty, and a lot of the Blue Jays were playing. I know, like, obviously Danny Jansen, we would always play a lot of video games with him, but it was like, then one night, like, Bo Bichette was on, Teoscar Hernandez was on, that like it seemed like half the team was playing Call of Duty, and then it was like me and like a couple of Ryan's friends, and it was just really cool. Just felt like some normalcy and being able to interact with people, because obviously we hadn't seen each other in a while, but that was a way to kind of bring everyone together and feel like things were kind of getting back to normal. And then you had that optimism that sports was then starting up too, like we were getting ready for baseball to start up. So yeah, those were fun nights, man. Really good times.
Yeah. And did you get any like awards or credit for your play there, Matt B, and any shout outs for your skills?
One thing that I don't know, Ryan, if you've ever seen this jersey I've got. Have you seen the jersey that Danny gave me?
No.
Oh, this would be a perfect time to show it to you. Right, hold on. I'm going to let you read what's on here.
I don't know if I can read. It says, "To the only Borucki that gives me trouble in COD, all the best from your boy." I think that's a dang lie. That's a dang lie, because he knows I'm deadly with that sniper.
I think, like, to Danny's credit, Major League Baseball player, Gold Glover, probably be an all-star one day. Like, if he wanted, he could probably be a professional video game player.
Yeah.
Like, he is like one of the best Call of Duty players I've ever seen. Rocket League, like, he was doing things.
He's been
I
grand
didn't
champion
even know was
like
possible.
5 times.
Like, so if things don't work out for him on the baseball field, like, he can go become a professional gamer. Yeah. Like, no doubt about it.
Yeah. He's actually having a great season this year, is he not?
Yeah, he's injured right now, but yeah, he was really starting to heat up by the time. And then once he got injured, obviously he's got to wait. But yeah, I think he had like 6 or 7 homers. He had like 2 walk-offs in like a week. So yeah, he was doing really well.
Nice. Well, yeah. Fast forward, you get to you get traded to the Mariners, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that? Toronto was pretty much your life since you're 18. How did that feel being traded and have to leave? What was home for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a tough time. Like, obviously, I was struggling at the time, and I kind of had a feeling something was going to happen. And yeah, they were. I think the hardest thing was just saying goodbye to the faces that I was around for so long. You know what I mean? It's all I knew. Saying goodbye to like John Schneider, who I was with for 7, 8 years in the minor leagues, Jordan Romano, one of my best buddies, Danny Jansen, guys like that I've been with for so long. I think that was the hardest point for me, like just saying goodbye to those guys. I wasn't really like upset about, I was more upset to leave my friends than it was like leaving the Toronto Blue Jays. Mm-hmm. Situation wise, I just felt like it was one of those things where the best way I could put it is like when you're with a girlfriend for so long, you just don't see a future anymore. Like, and it's just like you just got to part ways. It was like that kind of situation. I was there for so long, and I think it was just one of those things where it was both sides just had to part ways. And yeah, I was just waiting to hear what happened. I knew I was probably going to get traded, and then I got that call from our GM, the Blue Jays GM, and he's like, "Yeah, I just traded you to Seattle. Good luck with everything." And I was just like, "Oh my God!" Like, first of all, I got my first win in Seattle. That place is an unbelievable place to play. Like, just the fans that come out, I knew that. And my wife, she's from Vancouver, 2 hours away from Seattle. So it was like the best situation I possibly could. And getting traded over there, I looked, we were like 10 games under 500. So I was like, okay, like, well, we're not going to be, I didn't think we were going to be any good. Like, to be honest, like those West Coast teams, you don't really know like how they're doing because you just never see them play. And then, the minute I got there, you could tell it was a different kind of group than the Jays were, really tight knit, but we just weren't playing really well. And yeah, man, we ended up going on a tear. I'm not saying I wasn't really the reason, but like right after I got there, we really did start winning a lot. And yeah, that was to this day the most fun. That was the best team I've ever been a part of, guys wise, since high school. Since high school, and
Yeah.
that's a lot to say. Like I would put that up with my Mundelein teams. There wasn't any teams in the minor leagues or anything with the Jays that I was so tight knit with than that team. And I think the reason
Yeah.
why we were so successful, we weren't better than anybody. We weren't like better than a lot of teams, but we were so close knit as a group that we
Hmm.
just came together, and that's how we beat some of those really good teams.
Yeah, it sounds like the formula for Mundelein baseball right there.
Yeah.
We were never the best, but because we played together and for each other, we won. So, yeah, that year with Seattle, you guys, you go to the playoffs, deep in the playoffs. Was that your first time in the playoffs? Did you get
Second,
to the playoffs with
second,
second
yeah.
time?
The COVID year, we
Second
made
time.
it to the playoffs.
Oh yeah, but a lot different,
Yeah, a lot
obviously.
different, a lot different.
Yeah. And then, following that year, it was probably like the worst time of my life and Matt B's life because you ended up going to the Cubs and us living on the north side or northern suburbs of Chicago. There's not a lot of White Sox fans up there, or in Chicago in general. It's
Yeah.
like we're like 3 of 10, and when I heard that you're going to the Cubs, I'm like, oh my god, like. Please no, please no. I'm like, how does that make Matt B? How did that make you feel, Ryan? You're a lifelong White Sox fan. Like, what were the feelings? Obviously, you got a job, so what were the feelings going to the Cubs?
For me, it was, I mean, it was just, it seemed like the best situation at the time. Like just when you're going through the whole minor, like going through like the minor league free agent, you have a lot that you have to like factor in. You know what I mean? There's like where the AAA is, the money situation. There's just a lot of, there's a lot of situational things that you have to think about more than just like, hey, this is the best opportunity or like, this is the like team I want to be with. And, it was between them and the Pirates, hilariously. Like, and I just thought for the time being, I was coming off injury, and I thought it was just the best fit for me. I thought I had the best chance of making it the big league team out of camp. Yeah, and there's just a lot more that goes into it than just like, hey, like I want to play for the Cubs. Obviously,
Yeah.
that was like just like a factor where it'd be cool to play, be close to home because I've never been close to home playing before,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
yeah, so that was like a lot of deciding factors, but obviously like I was out of there in a month. I
Yeah.
just saw the situation for what it was. It just I wasn't a priority there. And yeah, once I got DFA'd and I was like the Pirates really were very interested in me. They reached out and the situation here is really good. So I signed here and I'm loving it so far. So for being in
Yeah.
AAA, it's a really good situation.
Hey, Matt, did you ever buy any Cubs gear?
No,
Thank God.
no, I
Thank
didn't.
God.
But
I don't know if.
Kyle
Yeah.
Stroka has the one of one Borucki 77 jersey.
Oh yeah.
I hope he got the Fanatics jersey assurance for it.
Oh God, he told me when he did that, he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to the Cubs game soon. I just got a Ryan Borucki jersey." I'm like, "What jersey number did you get?" He's in the minor leagues. I haven't got called up yet, and I guess he asked you, and it was the correct number. And then when Kyle actually went to the game, you weren't on the team anymore. I'm like, too bad,
Hey, man,
Kyle.
that's a collector's item, though.
Collector's item
Yeah.
right there. Yeah, he was
For
trying to
sure.
make me feel bad because we were having when I got DFA, we were having our rookie draft in the Dynasty League. And I
Yeah.
took a couple of his players and he sent me a picture of that jersey and he's like, man, I got one of these things and you're just going to do that to me. You're going to just snipe all my
Oh my
players. And
He's using that thing for firewood.
yeah,
now.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, the main reason was for trade bait.
Yeah,
Kyle's
exactly.
a little snake when it comes to trading in that league.
Oh, yeah.
So I wouldn't put it
The
past him.
commish, man, he does some dirty things.
Oh yeah, big time. But yeah, so yeah, you're with the Pirates now in Indianapolis. Yeah, how are things going? What have you pitched any games so far?
Yeah, man. Things are going great. It's definitely a different team than it was in Iowa. Iowa was a lot of veteran guys that have been around for a long time, and a lot of guys had big league time. And here, I mean, there's like maybe 5 of us that got any big league time. It's a younger team, a lot of prospects. So just like being like the older guy and just trying to lead by example and like helping guys out if they have any questions.
Mhm.
That's kind of the role. But they had a really good plan for me. The minute I got there, they're like, hey, we want to do this, this, and this with you. Like work on some stuff and made changes real quick. And yeah, I've been throwing the ball really well. I think I have like 6 or 7 appearances. Yeah, just throwing the ball really, really well. Coming out good, getting the velo back up, and yeah, so yeah, I'm really liking it here so far. And Indy's like by far 1,000 times nicer than Iowa's stadium is. No offense, Iowa's stadium is like for a AAA stadium, it needs to be a lot better. But Indy's is like they draw well, really nice stadium, really nice locker room, really good facilities. So yeah, it's definitely a major upgrade like coming here from going to Iowa.
Yeah, I mean the Cubs' whole organization sucks, and and now if you get called up, you get to pitch against them, and it's going to be awesome. So that's great. You have a pretty high prospect on your team. His brother got drafted by the Seattle Seahawks, Jackson Smith and Jigba,
Oh yeah,
and his brother is it Cannon? What's his first?
Cannon.
Cannon Smith and Jigba.
Oh
He
yeah.
started the season on Pittsburgh, but now he's playing with you in AAA. Have you give him any advice about going up and down in the leagues, or is he a guy who's like don't need to say much to him?
No, man. Me and Cannon, to be honest, like the minute I got there, me and him we clicked right away. He likes talking some smack. He likes doing things. And in St. Paul, they have this little like basketball hoop, like like mini basketball you put on a like a door. And he's like talking all this smack, this, that. And I was like, all right, let's go, me and him. And he's like, all right, let's go. Like he starts talking smack, and he makes one. He's in my face. It was like first guys that throw make or you get 3 shots, and however many you make, you get. He makes one. He's talking smack right in my face. I was like, all right, whatever. I drained my first 2. And I'm like, let's go, baby. And then he does it again, hits one, and then I drained 2 again. And it was like it was like my second day there, and like the whole locker room, we were in a rain delay, and the whole locker room's going crazy because he's just like, he brings the energy, man. He's a great dude. And yeah, we clicked right away. And yeah, you could tell he's the older brother there. Jackson's younger than him. And he has so much pride for he's so proud of his brother. And, yeah, it's so cool for him too. And I was like telling him just like when he goes and visits, because he's going to go see Seattle, like all the good spots. Because I was like, man, he's going to love playing Seattle because that fan base just like is unbelievable. Just for the Mariners, now the Kraken, and especially the Seahawks. It's a Seahawks town for sure. I got to go to the game that Russ returned, and you could tell the passion. They were ruthless, man. They weren't giving him the love that you thought he was. We all thought like last year, like, oh, they're going to give him a standing O. The minute he walked out of there, just boos just went across the whole stadium. And but yeah, he's a great dude, man. He's one of my favorites on this team, and yeah, me and him clicked really, really well.
That's awesome. So something new this season is the pitch clock. I've talked about the pitch clock with Jack Spiggers, who's a minor leaguer for the Texas Rangers, and obviously it's different from hitters and batters. Tell us your perspective of the pitch clock and how you adapted to it.
It's good, man. Like obviously it's different. It gets tough when you have to shake off. Obviously you get under the clock and you have to just be aware of it. But for like time to play in games, like it's like a noticeable difference. Those like long games aren't as long anymore. Like the games where guys are walking guys and stuff, like they're still like scratching the surface of like 3 hours. And like if it's a really good played game, like you're like almost done in like 2 hours. So for pace of play reasons, it's great. And obviously, yeah, it took some getting used to in spring training. And now with the minor leagues, and we're dealing with here in AAA, we deal 3 days a week. We do the automatic strike zone, and then 3 days a week we do the strike zone where the umpires call it, but you're able to challenge if you think if you think. So you get 3 challenges a game. And so yeah, that's a lot. There's a lot of different pieces that go in, but yeah, I don't mind the pitch clock. It keeps the game going. Like I said, it's just tough when you have to shake off a little bit. So
yeah. So every year they test pilot, new rules. Is there anything new in AAA that they put in that's not in the MLB right now?
Yeah, the ABS, the automatic balls and strikes, and the challenges. The thing I think they should bring, like would be great to bring in, is the challenge part. Like let the umpires let the umpires call their game, but have the ability for a hitter or a pitcher to challenge a call. I don't know if they'll ever do it, but I think it's really cool. Like when you challenge, you like tap the top of your head, and it's like tennis. They put it on the big screen, and it's like in slow motion of it like touching the zone, and it'll say it's either a strike or a ball. So, and if you, so each team gets 3. So if you're wrong, you lose them. So you kind of have to be strategic with it. Like at the end of the game, you got 2, and and it's like bases loaded situation. Any close call, you'll just like do it just to see if you can get one. Because
how have you felt the umpire versus ABS so far? Like, what do you feel like has been more accurate?
ABS, the top of the zone is non-existent now. So guys that live at the top, because what they did in spring training is they measured every player, like what their height. So every hitter has a different zone. So like if you're shorter, it's way smaller. So yeah, it's definitely different. ABS, it is what it is. I'm not a huge fan of it. Because there's pitches that shouldn't be strikes, but they are. And there's, there's just like balls that like nick the top, like a breaking ball that nicks the top, but it ends like in the other batter's box. That happens from time to time. I think the challenges is much better version, but that's just my opinion. I don't know if like I said, I don't know if they'll ever agree to it, but ABS, it is what it is.
Yeah, I can see the challenge being something that picks up if it goes to the MLB. Just those crowds, just like waiting in anticipation to see where that thing lands, and if it's a ball or strike. Yeah, fun atmosphere.
The ABS definitely saves the umpires. Like the 3 days a week that we do it, the ABS, there's no like balls or strikes arguments. Like you can't yell at the guy because it's the computer telling you it's a strike. So it's like those guys definitely don't have to wear it as much if it's like they think it's a bad call, because it's like. They're like, what do you want me to do? I'm not calling it. You know what I mean? So I don't know if the ABS thing will ever happen because there's a lot that would have to go through it, but I can definitely see the challenges being something more, a little bit better situation.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you being on here, both of you. We would like to have you back on again, but before we leave, I just wanted to talk about one thing. You start talking about umpires, and I think you were the last person to get thrown out of a game by Joe West. Is that correct?
That's correct. Fun fact. That's a good little trivia question.
That is a trivia question that everybody should know. Joe West, I don't know if they have like a Hall of Fame for umpires, or they let them in, but if there was,
he's number one. He's a first ballot for sure.
Number one.
Yeah, he's a first ballot for sure.
First ballot umpire. Hawk Harrelson, not a fan of him, or maybe they are buddies. I can't even remember what that was.
I think they're friends now, actually.
Are they?
Yeah.
Good old Joe West. But I guess the rundown of what happened there is like the night before, Kevin Kiermaier slid into home, and whoever was your catcher at the time dropped one of those little scouting reports out of his wristband, and the video catches Kiermaier picking that up and taking it back to the dugout, and he's made a comment like, I'm not giving it back, even though like it's basically like cheating or being a little baby for not giving back the scouting report. And the next game, you went ahead and plunked him in the back, and then got tossed by Joe West. That ball slipped, right? It was just came out of your hand wrong.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, up in like for me, if anybody's ever as a lefty, you face me, I'm good for one face ball, maybe, you know what I mean? Just because the ball comes out, I get bad mechanics and I just pull and just up an arm side. So it happens, man. But yeah, it was.
I like to tell people that this is the jersey from the game too. I don't know.
Oh yeah, we were wearing baby blue that day. I remember that. But yeah, Joe West was pretty simple. He's like, man, you got to go. I'm like, hey man, it slipped. He's like, it's like with the situations, you got to go. And I was like, yes, sir. I will not. I will not argue, Joe West. But yeah, that was his last ejection. I should have had a jersey or a picture of him throwing me out. I wanted to send it over. I should have did it and be like, for the last ejection, have him sign it, but I never did. Maybe one day I'll just send one in his mail and hopefully he'll sign it back.
Yes, let's find a way to get that done. That'd be great. But once again, guys, thanks for joining the podcast. This is one of the more fun, just reliving, you being a little punk and us putting you in line, and then you go ahead and be the best athlete to come from our hometown. So thanks guys for being here, and I can't wait for you guys to jump back on.
Appreciate it, Steve-O. Thank you for having us.